This is where the fun begins.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the expanded universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The expanded universe respects the reader. In the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the expanded universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the expanded universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story in continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
That's just a rumor that has kind of crawled up through fandom for years and years and years. I know that Tim met George Lucas. They had a sit-down conversation before the first book was done. I know that as with any of the novels, everything is cleared through Lucasfilm, and 100% for anything as major as a love interest being developed for Luke. That's a decision that George would have given a yes or no on.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to this special live that I decided to do. This is very last minute. So those who are hopping on, thank you so much for taking the time out in this unscheduled live and joining me. I'm waiting for a couple more minutes for people to hop in, and I have a bit of interesting news. Some of you guys may know, may not know what this news might be about, or may be familiar to it, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you guys. So I have great Gabriel Knight in here, free purist, he says, and I do have, so here we go. And I do have Jedi Rifster of the EU. Those who claim that the EU doesn't count and wasn't approved by George don't deserve any Star Wars. Wow, look where they're at right now. They're getting faux lore. So that's where they're at. That's where they're at. Well, we preserve the true, authentic Star Wars through George Lucas era. And we have Gordon here, Gordon McDonald. How are you doing? Awesome, right? And I debated about just holding on to this bit of, I guess you could say, news, if you want to call it that or not, or just going ahead and do live. But you know what? We didn't have a Thursday calf chat. And I just thought maybe I can come on here, share this bit of information. Like I said, some of you guys may or may not know about this. And just shoot the shit with you guys, right? It is a Sunday evening, and it is a nice day. Might as well. Pierre, excellent work. We'll live on. I agree 100%. So with that being said, how are you guys all doing this Sunday? Ready for work, for the work week? Are you ready for the work week? All right. So I have came across this channel and I shared with two Discords about Mr. Zod saying that Return of the Jedi ruined Star Wars. So I want to do a breakdown review of that with a panel. So stay tuned for that. But I did clip something of, or a section of his video about Han and Lando. And I'm doing some research and comprising information to debunk what he says about them. And within that research that I'm currently doing right now, I was searching up, what George talks about romance in Star Wars. So what he has to say about romance in Star Wars. And when I was doing that, I came across this bit of information that I wanted to go ahead and just share with you guys and just put it out here on YouTube. I'm like already making a pre-recorded researched video debunking this guy. And so I figured this would be easier to talk with you guys in the chat for probably about within an hour or so and go over this bit of information I found. So let's see who else is hopping on. Awesome. Yes. And let's see here. I look forward to acquiring the old Legacy Collection comic books, Mara Jade's action figure. Oh, I have her little action figure and it's up on my shelf. I can't see it because it is not behind, but next to something that's a little bit bigger, but I do have her action figure. And Gordon says, yeah, I was surprised to hear about Justin's channel. Yes, it is all good. I mean, considering what all the shit that went down, people are born out of flames and ashes, right? Okay. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm surprised my mods are not here yet. Well, like I said, this is just a quick surprise live here. So thank you guys for joining me. And let's see here. So let me go ahead and pull up the article that I'm going to share with you guys and this bit of information. So yes, so I'm comprising a small video debunking this guy's view on Han and Lando. And he also says Han shouldn't have been promoted to general for the Rebel Alliance because he was sexually harassing one of the Rebel Alliance's leaders. So imagine that. So stay tuned for that video. But because I've been doing my research, I came across this here. Now, how many of you guys have the Hand of Thrawn duology, are familiar with Mara Jade's story? How Luke and everybody met her in Thrawn trilogy, and her being within the threads of the historical timeline up until the Hand of Thrawn duology, and of course the famous proposal, and then the marriage in the comics by Stackpole and in the Comics Union. And we have seen, like many people, like these anti-EU, I'm not saying many like as in this whole fandom group or whatever, but anti-EU rhetoric is that George did not want Luke married and he did not want anything to do with that, or Jedis don't marry, blah, 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 blah. But he basically, we all know that he approved. We all know that George Lucas has a say when it comes to the major movie characters that are also in the EU, also living through the EU, because it's one historical timeline. Let's see here. Finally made it. Captain, hey, how you doing, Captain Keeley? I finally made it to a stream for the first time in a while. Good to see y'all. Yes, like I said, this is something that is a bit of surprise to everybody. I got 27 beautiful souls here. Thank you guys for jumping on and hanging out. And let's see here. And then we have Chase. How are you doing? And let's see here. She was the Emperor's Hand's first seen in Return of the Jedi audio drama as the dancer in Jabba's palace. Yes, that retroactive placement of her. Oh, shoot. I just knocked down my little fan. But that extra retroactive placement of her in the Return of the Jedi radio drama is what sets her into G canon as well. And whenever something is being done, especially with George's movies and movies characters, he has the final say. And many people make it sound like he is absent from that and absent from his business, or basically just everybody passes things past him, unless he works on the Clone Wars, then nothing goes past him, right? Hey, Soul Assassin, how are you doing? All right, so with this research I was doing, I just can't believe this guy was saying that Han Solo was sexually harassing Leia. So with this search, or this research and the search of George Lucas and romance in Star Wars, I found this bit of information right here. And it has to do with Timothy Zahn's Hand of Thrawn duology, Spectre of the Past and Visions of the Future. And let me go ahead and this was basically, this came out just in April of this year. And this is about the EU, the evolution of the EU and George Lucas and the Hand of Thrawn duology, the untold story of Luke and Mara Jade. So we're going to get into that. Leia wanted it. Let's see here. Sindel from Ewoks, the battle for Endor is more likely likable than Rey. I have to revisit those parts of the lore. It's been a while since I've seen the Ewoks battle for Endor. And then Holocron Library Fox, how are you doing? All right. So like I said, my comprising this video here led me to this bit of information. And a lot of this I knew, but I just wanted to get this out there for history's sake and for the channel, since it's a George Lucas era eccentric channel. All right. So the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now branded as Legends under Disney, was a treasure trove of rich storytelling, beloved characters, and unexpected developments. Among the most iconic and fan-revered tales from the era was Timothy Zahn's Hand of Thrawn duology, comprised of Spectre of the Past and Vision of the Future. These novels served as both a narrative milestone and emotional crescendo for fans following the saga beyond the films. Again, how many of you guys have those books on your shelves? If you don't, that's fine. There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious. There is no wrong answer. All right, let's move on. Okay, but what many casual fans don't realize is how involved George Lucas himself was in shaping the core of the story. In fact, the romantic culmination between Luke and Mara Jade, a pairing now considered legendary in the Star Wars lore, wasn't just an idea cooked up by the authors for our fan enthusiasm. It came from the top, George Lucas himself. Let's peel back the curtain on the original Hand of Thrawn duology and explore how Lucas's influence and the creative minds of the expanding universe brought closure, change, and romance to the galaxy far, far away. And if you guys are privy with the creation of the OT and some of the interviews by Mark Hamill, he does talk about, when asked about if Luke finds a relationship, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the information exactly in front of me to give you word by word. And he said that George Lucas has something planned in the future for Luke regarding that. Again, paraphrasing. So there we go. So we know that George's ideas were always there for authors to look at. George was always there for authors to talk with, get a hold of, whether it's face to face, on the phone, fax, or what have you, and develop these stories. And Matthew is here. I have to get the Emperor's Hand and Union, but I have the individual issues. Some for Shadows of the same for Shadows of the Empire, Dark Horse comics. Star Wars was my favorite. I also like the novels and guides. Yes, there we go. So setting the stage, Bantam's final hurrah. So we know that, like the Hand of Thrawn duology basically was, the one of the ending stories of the Bantam era. And one of them. So we have all this going on, all this like planning, what's going to happen with these characters next as we move on to new publishers, new licensed publishers for Star Wars. So in the late 1993, the team behind Bantam Spectra, the publisher responsible for a major wave of Star Wars novels during the 1990s, approached George Lucas about what was to be their final set of stories before the license moved on. Lucas, never one to do things halfway, had two major requirements for this grand finale. Now we know that this is right before we get into New Jedi Order. And we know that the Young Jedi Knights are not necessarily Bantam. They're Scholastic, I believe. I could be wrong on that one. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And hey, Mr. Dystopian, how are you doing? And Gibbet, how are you doing? And Melissa Lord, hey there, you guys. So we have the changing of the guard here. They know that their licensing is coming up and they want to finish these stories. And so this is what George says. So in his words, basically, quote unquote, I came up with two things I needed to do if I was to do the book. One was to end the war between the New Republic and the Empire, and two, to get Luke and Mara together. If we're going to do some kind of closure to Bantam series, these two events needed to be done. So what do you guys think about that? What do you think about that? Let me go ahead and get this guy out of my way. I don't like it when we have these ads. It's not. Oh, here it is. Nope, it's not going to let me. All right. All right. Let's see here. Does anyone know how a channel can stop to get in members? Can stop to get in, or stooped, or stopped? What? Stopped, stooped? It wasn't canon. 2D2. Let's see. Mara Jade is featured in Tales from Jabba's Palace. There we go. How are you doing? You stand with JJ plagiarism. All righty then. Let's see here. And OG, I disagree with Knights of Melon talking. We're not going to talk about this right here, right now. This is not the time and place to talk about anything like that. And we're going to leave it at that. We are going to leave it at that. I have my own thoughts, but we're not going to get into that right now. You will get to hear what I want to say, need to say later. This is not the time. All right. So basically, he wanted to make sure all the ends were tied before moving on. All right. Lucas recognized that Bantam era had stretched the conflict between the remnants of the Empire and the New Republic long enough. But just as important, he wanted resolution for Luke's arc, especially his personal journey. And that meant finally resolving his complicated connection with Mara Jade, the former Emperor's Hand, who had become a Jedi and Luke's equal in more ways than one. At the time, this was a bold move. Luke's love life had always been ambiguous and carefully guarded by Lucasfilm, but Lucas was clear. It was time to make Mara and Luke a couple. So what do you guys think about this? What do you think about this? Hey, what's up? Shit. OG kicking knowledge. Yes, I am. I found a bit of information doing some research on George and romance and Star Wars. And so I just wanted to go ahead and bring this up and talk with you guys. And let's see here. Matthew got it. It was fun reading and collecting the Marvel issues of Star Wars as well while the Dark Horse stuff was fresh. Back then, it was not super expensive to buy the original printings. I loved reading about Lumaya. Let's see here. And more gossip and drama, huh? Let's see here. Thank you so much. And, if you're here just to chill and talk about Star Wars EU, that's fine. You guys will get to hear what I want to say about that matter later. This is not about it. All right. And nice. All right. So let's move on. So Timothy Zahn holds the line. Okay, so this is about pertaining to the Hand of Thrawn duology, and this is what he has to say. Timothy Zahn holds the line. Timothy Zahn, the creator of Mara Jade and the writer behind both the original Thrawn trilogy and the Hand of Thrawn duology, was approached to write this closing chapter. But here was a hitch. While Lucas had signed off on the plan, there was initially hesitancy from Bantam. Zahn recalls this, quote unquote. They came back and said, okay, the first one's fine, but we'd like you to leave Luke and Mara's relationship ambiguous. And I said, well, in that case, I'm really not interested in doing the book. So that's between him and Bantam. Lucas already said, I want closure for that. For Zahn, the emotional resolution between Luke and Mara wasn't just a fan service subplot, it was essential. Their journey from enemies to reluctant allies to friends and ultimately lovers was one of the most compelling long-form arcs in the EU. Zahn held his ground. Eventually, in early 1994, Bantam agreed the love story would proceed. Lucas's stamp of approval. Let me see what you guys are saying. I think Zahn thought it was he was a leader of the EU writing or wants to be that. I think that there has been I think he grew too big for his britches in a sense, and he sold himself short, very short when writing for Disney. Now I understand that anybody needs work, but I think the author that I have that has the most integrity about their work is Karen Travis. Now I'm just imagining standing on your morals to not rewrite your work. And that's money you're losing. This is where you see someone that's true to their morals and standing behind them. There's no price tag for that, right? There's no price tag. It's priceless. And I think Zahn, sorry, you guys, may not be the most popular thing or best thing you've heard me say. Like, you may not agree with me. I don't think Zahn has that, but that's just me. All right. I think Zahn thought he was I read that one. Callista? Yes. We're going to get into that. I agree. She walked away to avoid retconning her own stuff. Correct. Kind of strange how Disney calls the Wedgens novel essential. They're essential, but not really, essential legends, but they're not essential at all because they toss them and don't even use them. And then when they do, they bastardize them so bad. Been saying that for a long time. Correct. Same here, Bane. Same here. Jordan McDonald. Remember, one of Luke's girlfriends was Mind Spear of an old Republic Jedi that was transferred to one of Luke's young female students that she was trapped in the computer, but she lost her powers, Callista. Let me see here. How can I do this? No, it's not going to let me. All right. Zahn is a traitor. Lucino at least recognized one continuity, although, and I think after that realization, and after he written, I think his last book for them, he stepped away. I think there was that realization, Bane, that he just stepped away. He couldn't do it anymore. Although he wrote for Disney, he wouldn't allow them to make him discredit the EU. Correct. Yeah, I have the Leia, the Third Law by Larry Hama, and a comic called The Lassie Jedi. It's a Walter Simpson. Old Jedi or old Star Wars Marvels are not Disney. I get a kick out of the stuff. Yes. All right, let's get into this here. So, author Michael A. Stackpole, another major figure in the EU who pinned the X-Wing novels, him and Aaron Alston, confirmed that Lucas' involvement was more than passive. Quote unquote, George did approve Mara and Luke marrying. This I have from Tim, and my experience is that if anything was going to happen with any of the creators, George signed, or the characters, sorry, not creators, characters, George signed off. Stackpole emphasized that approval was built into the first Bantam contract. Luke and Mara were always destined to marry. It wasn't just a late addition or an authorial whim. Lucas had envisioned it as part of the natural progression of Luke's story. Like I said, Mark Hamill even talked about that with George in the early stages, in the early years of the OT. Though George was known to occasionally change his mind, and we know how much he changes his mind, and I think sometimes he can't make sense of how the EU was organized as a single canon and how everything worked. He even called like the comics, the comic world, the book world, the movie world, and stuff like that. So it's not like he's saying they're separate or different. He is distinguishing where things were made within the company, or where they came from, not where they are placed or in a separate timeline and all that. Because if that's the case, then the comics are their own timeline, the books are their own timeline. It doesn't make sense, especially when you read through them and you see how congruent they are to each other, how well, excuse me, their continuities to each other. Lucas has envisioned it as part of the natural progress of Luke's story, though George was known to occasionally change his mind. I read this already, but I'm going through it. At the time, the plan was solid. What's remarkable is that this major plot point, Luke Skywalker's eventual marriage, was never leaked, even though multiple authors were aware of it as early as 1993 or 1994. Stackpole said it best. We're standing there looking at each other. Sure you do, fella. But yeah, that was the idea. That was the story. It never leaked. So the Callista detours and emotional baggage. So we're getting a little history here of the creation of Luke Skywalker's story in, after the movies. Now let's see here. What did you guys are saying? All right, let's see here. Do you recall how many girlfriends Luke had? I know he had at least 2. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them, but I could be wrong. You could look that up. I'm just going at the top of my head. Planet of Twilight and Children of the Jedi are so good. Walt Simpson, Thor iconic. Let's see. I still have yet to read Heart of the Jedi. Oh, that one, that EU book that basically proved that people wanted more expanded universe. They didn't want it to be tossed. They were willing to have 2 separate timelines and have the original EU still continue on. That was friggin' crazy and amazing. I was there for the whole thing, the whole discovery, the whole conversation, and going on other streams like Ryan's and Matt Wilkins and stuff, and just really campaigning for the selling of this book and the campaign of, continue in the EU if all possible. But now that I think about it, I'm kind of glad, because you don't know how much or how bad it could have been messed up with the ideologies that are going into the new Star Wars. So I'm kind of happy that, that it still hasn't carried on in a sense, even though, God, I don't want it to be, have it gone, I guess, or what have you. I know Luke also had a girlfriend in the Dark Empire trilogy. Let's see here. Have y'all listened to View the Dark Empire trilogy audio drama motion comics? They are here on YouTube and they're awesome. Yes, I have them on Audible. In fact, someone on Twitter tried to say that the Yuuzhan Vong was revealed to Luke by Palpatine in the radio drama. What do you guys think about that? All right. Luke had lots of flings in the comics and novels, maybe as much as Han, if not more. Lots of girlfriends. Luke was base, basically. Luke was a player. There you go. He was a player. Before Han was Leia's husband, and they were an item, of course. Han had ex-girlfriends. We got their backstories, and before they all met and became friends and family and knew each other as brother and sister, all of that. TJ Carr says, it's a shame that people like us that lived through that time have to explain these things because shills continue to spread propaganda. I agree. OG, I sent you an article of Luke's past girlfriends. It's safe to say. Okay, I will check it out. Let's get through this and then I'll pull that up. All right. Let's see here. Okay, Callista detours and emotional baggage. Before Luke and Mara could find each other, the EU gave readers a different romantic direction. Callista, being a former Jedi, children's Jedi. The relationship between Luke and Callista was always a bit controversial among fans. And as it turns out, within the creative team too. Timothy Zahn shared that every time someone tried to reintroduce Callista, she was quickly written out. It was as if the universe itself resisted the pairing. Zahn had his own vision, quote unquote. I always thought they would be a good couple, but they need time to just be friends. Mara had baggage, Luke had baggage, and then to work it out in the Hand of Thrawn duology that was in the back of my mind all the way along. What made Luke and Mara so compelling wasn't just chemistry, it was depth. Both carried emotional scars. Both had walked away from the dark side in different ways. Their bond wasn't just romantic, it was redemptive. Bringing Mara Jade to life. For many fans, Mara Jade lived vividly in the imagination. She was fierce, brilliant, complex, a woman who had worked for the Emperor, hunted Jedi, and then transformed into one. But what did she actually look like? That was the challenge artist Drew Struzan faced. Struzan, the legendary illustrator responsible for many of Star Wars' most iconic posters, admitted, quote unquote, all I knew about her and all I did were to paint a picture of the girl a couple of times. She was only a slimy, or did I read that right? She was only a slightly developed idea in some creative minds at the time. Struzan, so he's responsible for her first image before we get Shannon McRandall. Hey there, Silver Ogre. How are you doing? Luke and Mara had character growth since the Galactic War. They even talked about it there to their son Ben. Yes, correct. And then Struzan continues to say down here, I'm just going to read the quote. My vision of Mara Jade became another of the acceptable visions of who she might be. I think it is quite fun that she has a tendency to be a bit of a chameleon. What do you guys think about that? A chameleon. The final word, it was George's decision. Barbara Hamley, another notable Star Wars author, once revealed that the decision to make Mara the great love of Luke's life came from above. At a higher level, as she put it, the higher level, of course, was George Lucas. While Lucas was never directly involved in writing the novel, his guiding hand ensured that the big story beats aligned with his vision. Wow. People are like, oh, no, the EU doesn't align with George's vision, and they spew this anti-EU rhetoric when there's so many authors and so many quotes and evidence that the EU had to align with his vision. Now, if it was not a part of the greater saga, then it wouldn't have aligned with his vision. They could have took ideas, yes, but did something different and not aligned with what George had wanted for these main characters, right? Think about that. And for Luke, that vision included a partner, someone strong, independent, and complex, someone like Mara Jade. Mara Jade. He was devoted to being a Jedi and couldn't be with Guriel Capistan. I know that he rebuffed Tiniel, or he rebuffed, or basically rejected. He's like, no, Isildur is good, or Isildur, you know who I meant, is good for you. Who ended up with Isildur. I said Isildur. Not to mention his connection with Shira Bree in Marvel, a spy. Correct. All right. And I think I said earlier in the stream when I first began, before a lot of you guys popped on here, that I said it was Sunday. It is actually Monday today. I'm just kind of behind. All right. So this goes into legacies and legend here. Today, the Hand of Thrawn duology remains favorite among the longtime Star Wars fans, though the Disney era canon has moved in a different direction. And they basically tossed the EU. Whether Mara Jade will ever return remains uncertain. I hope she doesn't turn whatsoever. And thanks to George Lucas, she was always meant to be Luke Skywalker's equal and his wife. So there we go. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. I've seen some of these quotes, and but when it's comprised all together in such a mindful article, it kind of gives you a bigger picture about Luke, Mara Jade, the creation of Star Wars, where it was visioned to go by even the higher up George Lucas, and allowing Luke Skywalker to marry, allowing this character to become his wife. And we have people say, oh, well, George hated Mara because of blah blah blah, and basically what George didn't like about her was just her look. She looked too cosmopolitan. She didn't look like a Star Wars character Jedi, and that's the only discrepancy that he had with her. And he approved Shannon McRandall as her live model. And she came in and she modeled and did images for the cards and for promotions and all this other stuff. And then since then, was used for other images throughout the lore, and then shown up at conventions. And I think she might have been at Star Wars Celebration, but I don't know if anybody can confirm that with me. But with that being said, George Lucas approved of the model, the real life model person, Shannon McRandall, of the character, of the marriage. Didn't like how she looked too cosmopolitan. That's it. That's the end of the story here. The end of the story. All right, let's see here. I'm going to see what you guys are saying. Plus there was, okay, let me scroll up and read. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, he was devoted to being a Jedi and couldn't be with. Oh yeah, I read that one already. Let's see here. They could have repopulated the entire new Jedi Order with Mara Jade, making string force sensitive babies like Callista wanted. EU Skywalker family tree is a lot more extensive than Disney lame ass lore. I agree 100%. Plus, there was Jim Yasana in Dark Empire 2, who Vaich wanted to end up with Luke, and she was killed off. Callista and Mara, all though, were his greatest loves. Akana, was barely a footnote. Yeah, she was this deceiver of him, trying to mislead him with her possibly knowing his mom, right? Funny how the shills always leave out the fact that George always signed off on everything back in those days. I like how they made Mara a fiery, feisty redhead. Yes. I like Mara from the beginning, and I was for their connection. I figured reading the last command they have to end up together. That scene where he gives her his father's lightsaber. Yeah, that was a foreshadow. That was a foreshadow. Let me go ahead and see what. Let me remove this. Let me see what Soul Assassin sent, so we can pull this up. I know what he sent, but I'm going to bring it up. It's about Luke's girlfriends. If George Lucas hated the fact of Jedi marrying or Luke marrying, then even the girlfriends and all that would not be something. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at this while we're here. And since we're hanging out talking about this, I wish there was an easier way instead of click, 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 click on bringing up these articles. Let's see here. Since we're on the topic, why not, right? Thank you so much, Soul Assassin. Thank you so much. Vato. Let's see here. People think Mara was feisty. Have y'all seen her descendants? Cade Skywalker took her, Anakin, Vader, and Luke to set him right. Is Buns here? Oh, yes, he is. Yep. What you've said is true. Anytime someone tries to claim George Lucas would have hated Mara, they'll refer to script, robot script. Oh, that one too. That one too. That's just a parody that George decided to do. He was just making jokes and having fun with them. And people will say, oh, well, this is proof. So here we go. Luke Skywalker's romantic life. So here we go. His girlfriends. 10, Danny. First appearance, Star Wars 70, the Syntax Shuffle comic. A Zaltron thief who joined the rebels. Everybody likes their Zaltrons, right? And I'm guessing this was her up here, of course. So here she is. So imagine that. Luke's girlfriend from the comics. And then we have Alexandria Winger. First appearance, A Glimmer of Hope. It's a short story. A Force-sensitive girl raised by Imperials. So there we go. So we say this is probably her behind him. And I'm not reading through these. I'm just giving quick descriptions. Woo, look at this. Look at that. Let me see here. Let's see. I wonder where Gariel Capstan will be ranked. I don't know if they are ranked in any specific order. A Zaltron, dang, right? Blasting off Zaltro's man. There you go, Bane. Bane of Shields. I need to make you a mod. I'll have to go in. It's not going to let me do it right here. All right. Okay, let's go back. So here we have this picture. And this is Mary, first appearance in Star Wars 89. I'll see you in the throne room. The kind-hearted leader of the Soleil resistance. Mary's compassion inspired Luke so much that he considered leaving the alliance for her. There you go. A lot has inspired him. Look at that. Okay. So let's go to Gariel. So everybody's wondering about Gariel. So here's Gariel. Gabriel Capuson, first appearance in Trusa Bakura, was raised with imperial leanings, but her open-mindedness helped foster the truce between rebels and the imperial during the Battle of Bakura. So that's her. And let's see here. Tanith Shire, right here. First appearance, Darth Vader Strikes comic. Enslaved on the Fondor shipyard, Tanith nevertheless helped Luke escape a trap set by Darth Vader. So here you go. Here you go. This is actually fun, you guys. Love how where the stream leads to, having us talk and nerd out about Luke Skywalker and his relationships. Bert Bakara. And they never want to leave. Let's see here. Everyone's going to Zaltros now. It's whack, man. I can't hang in the clubs I used to because it's full of off-worlders. You guys are so much funny. Oh my God. All right, let's go here. Let's go back. Did I read this one here? Yeah. Or did I not? Yeah. All right, and here we go. Akana Pell. First appearance, and here she is right here. Before the Storm, it's a novel, of course, claimed to have information about Luke's mother, Akana, and Luke traveled in search of her scattered people. And she's a Falanasi shaman, or Falanasi. So there she is. Led him on this wild goose chase that, of course, led to nothing. I mean, there's a whole other story with that, but we're not going to get into that. And then Yam Yasana. So this is what they're talking about in Dark Empire. First appearance, the Dark Empire 2 comic. Jem and her brother came from a force-sensitive lineage that gave them remarkable power, letting them lift boulders with minimal instruction from Luke. So they have that right here. And then Callista Ming. So here we have Callista here. Oh my God. The cats, dude, what are you doing with that tack? You know what? Hold on. I'm going to get this tack out of this cat's mouth. I don't want it to swallow it. Stop it. No. All right. Never a dull moment in the house. So Callista Ming. Here we go. Children of the Jedi. Callista Ming carries an odd history of acquiring new forms. She was originally a Jedi Knight who fought alongside Anakin and Ahsoka during the Clone Wars. Oh, but in a desperate mission, she goes back. Doesn't she go back further? Doesn't she go back further in the lore from what I remember? Let me see here. This is the Cosmopolitan magazine of the Cosmos. Ha ha ha. Let's see here. Now I know how Plagueis felt when Abroa got nuked, but I had no 11-4D to back it up. Oh my gosh, you guys are going crazy. So here we go, Callista right here. And then, of course, we know this one. This one's a very popular one as well. We have the one and only Lumaya, or Shira Bree. First appearance, Coffin in the Clouds. Known as Shira Bree when Luke first met her, Lumaya and Luke displayed remarkable chemistry as rebel soldiers. However, she turned out to be a disguised Imperial agent whose mission is to discredit Luke after her left her deformed after her he evidently shot her down. Geez, I could read her ship. So basically, yeah. So Shira Bree, Lumaya. The story continues in Legacy. Oh, and I just stuttered all over that friggin'. And of course, Mara Jade. We don't need to really introduce who she is. Here we go. And the picture they use is of the novel when she dies by her nephew. Let's see here. I remember some Disney shills were shilling Ahsoka and Luke. It was weird. Oh yeah, I remember that too. Let's see. I hate that they inserted Callista into the Ahsoka story. Callista deserves better than that. Yeah, I knew she goes back further than that. That was crazy. They shouldn't have. I don't think this hub page, whoever the author is, should have written about that portion. They should have took it back where she originally came from. But you know how that goes. Gotta put Mr. Filoni up on that pedestal, right? As Normie would call her, Lumaya. Who's Ahsoka? Was she a character? I don't remember her. La la la, spoilers, la 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 la. Oh my god, it's hilarious. There you go. All of this is, and it should get you excited to explore these stories even further, to get, like, we could tell you things, but once you experience it, it takes you to a whole nother level. Yep. So there we go, you guys. So this all came about, like I said, on putting together a video about this idiot, Mr. Zod, talking shit about Han and Lando being generals for the New Republic in Return of the Jedi, and how it should never have happened, and how Han Solo was sexual harassing Leia. So I decided, okay, let me see what George has to say about romance in Star Wars. And this is where I came to the article on George Lucas and the Hand of Thrawn duology. And now we're here talking about Luke's exes and his wife even more. So great conversation, you guys. Absolutely love this. I wanted to come in here and talk about that article that was written in detail. I wouldn't say, too much detail, but in focus of George Lucas and the Hand of Thrawn duology, and more about the acceptance of Luke Skywalker marrying as a Jedi. And with that being said, let me go ahead and find the video that I want to share. Hopefully I don't get striked for my own video. That would be weird, but YouTube has been weird lately. So I'm giving myself permission to share my own video with you guys. A disclaimer going on here. And we have 66 beautiful souls here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to be a fun video. OG is going to tear that loser argument apart. Yeah, that one is just simple. It's just simple, small section. However, I want to get a panel together and tear that whole video apart with people who, it's not like I want it to be biased, but I want at least one or two more people that, that Return of the Jedi is their favorite movie. And then, if not, then even people who just love it anyways, even though they might think that, Empire Strikes Back's better. But, that's debating on what is better is another different story altogether. Matthew says, I remember the shills shipping Luke and Afra. Oh, yeah. And she does not swing that way. Young Jake Skywalker with a yellow lightsaber and Sana Solo. Return of the Jedi was great. I couldn't stand the Return of the Jedi. I can't stand that Return of the Jedi hater. Correct. I agree. All right, let me grab that video. Again, a disclaimer. My own disclaimer, giving myself permission to play this video. Let me see, where is it at? Let's see here. And this video, I think it's not that long. It's only like 7 minutes, but I think I'm going to put it here in my clips so I can play it randomly for some of my, some of my intros or outros for CapChat. Bunch says, I said this before, but Return of the Jedi houses some of the greatest scenes in all of Star Wars. It's it's lots of fun. People only hate it because of the Ewoks. Thank you so much for gifting these memberships. Thank you again. I appreciate this. Let me see, what do I want to play for you? Speaking of Lando. Thank you so much again. I appreciate this. All right, so the video I'm sharing basically is a video I did for Continuity Chronicles, and it's basically rooted from Revenge of the Sith novelization, and it basically has the foreshadowing of the new Jedi Order. I really don't put anything about Luke's marriage, but basically Luke is the one to bring back the Order as a new order and to evolve the Order, which, I have a short that talks about it, that Yoda sees that was some of their failures with the Order, that they needed to evolve it. So let me go ahead and pull that up, and then we'll start closing out. She'll share the screen. Here we go. Share. Go ahead and grab this.
Around a conference table on Tantive 4, Bail Organa, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Yoda met to decide the fate of the galaxy.
To Naboo, send her body.
Yoda stretched his head high, as though tasting a current in the Force.
Pregnant, she must still appear. Hidden, safe, the children must be kept. Foundation of the new Jedi Order they will be.
I am the last of the Jedi. He seemed to hear Ben's voice faint and indistinct, as if from a great distance.
Not the last of the old Jedi, Luke. The first of the new.
Yet by far the most arresting sight of all was the manner in which Kenth, Kip, Lobaka, Alima, Octaramus, and more than a dozen other Jedi were clustered around Luke, who now stood in the center of the circle his comrades had formed around him, some of them seated, some of them actually down on one knee, paying close attention to everything he was telling them, his every word about Zonama, the planet, and Seacot, the planet's animating consciousness. He has become a true master, Leia thought. We should split them up, Obi-Wan said. Even if the Sith find one, the other may survive. I can take the boy, Master Yoda, and you take the girl. We can hide them away, keep them safe. Train them as Anakin should have been trained.
No.
The ancient master lowered his head again, closing his eyes, resting his chin on his hands that were folded over the head of his stick. Obi-Wan looked uncertain. But how are they to learn the self-discipline a Jedi needs? How are they to master skills of the Force?
Jedi training, the sole source of self-discipline is not. When right is the time for skills to be taught. To us, the living Force will bring them.
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid to bring you to Alderaan. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
You must learn the ways of the Force, if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
Until then, wait we will, and watch and learn.
I can... Bail Organa stopped, flushing slightly. I'm sorry to interrupt, Masters. I know little about the Force, but I do know something of love. The Queen and I, well, we've always talked of adopting a girl. If you have no objection, I would like to take Leia to Alderaan and raise her as our daughter. She would be loved with us. Yoda and Obi-Wan exchanged a look. Yoda tilted his head.
No happier fate could any child ask for. With our blessing and that of the Force, let Leia be your child.
Bale stood, a little jerkily, as though he simply could no longer keep his seat. His flush had turned from embarrassment to pure, uncomplicated joy. Thank you, Masters. I don't know what else to say. Thank you, that's all. What of the boy? Klieg Lars still lives on Tatooine, I think. And Anakin's stepbrother, Owen, that's it, and his wife Beru, still work the moisture farm outside Mos Eisley.
As close to kinfolk as the boy can come.
Yoda said approvingly.
But Tatooine, not like Alderaan it is, deep in the Outer Rim, a wild and dangerous planet.
Anakin survived it, Obi-Wan said. Luke can too. And I could take him there and watch over him. Protect him from the worst of the planet's dangers, until he can learn to protect himself.
Like a father you wish to be, young Obi-Wan?
More an eccentric old uncle, I think. It is a part I can play very well. To keep watch over Anakin's son. Obi-Wan sighed, finally allowing his face to register a suggestion of his old gentle smile. I can't imagine a better way to spend the rest of my life.
Settled it is then. To Tatooine you will take him.
Meditation. The package is delivered. I hope you can read my thoughts, Master Qui-Gon. I haven't heard your voice since that day on Polis Massa, when Master Yoda told me I could commune with you through the Force. You'll remember that we decided I should take Anakin's son to his relatives for safekeeping. That mission is now accomplished. It feels so strange being here, at this place and in this circumstance. Years ago, we removed one child from Tatooine, thinking him to be the galaxy's greatest hope. Now I have returned one, with the same goal in mind. I hope it goes better this time, because the path to this moment has been filled with pain, for the whole galaxy, for my friends, and for me. I still can't believe the Jedi Order is gone, and the Republic, corrupted, and in the hands of Palpatine. And Anakin, corrupted as well. The hollow vids I saw of him slaughtering the Jedi younglings in the temple still haunt my dreams, and shatter my heart into pieces over and over again. But after the horror of children's deaths, a child may bring hope as well. It's as I said, the delivery is made. I'm standing on a ridge with my riding beast, a Tatooine Eope, looking back at the Lars homestead. Owen and Beru Lars are outside, holding the child. The last chapter is finished. A new one has begun.
Whew, that is a lot right there. Like that ending part, that was a last minute decision when I was editing that video to put the prologue to the Kenobi novel, that portion of that, and to tie in to show how well continuity is met with the EU, within the EU. You know, so we gone through, I could have used so many different references, but I wanted to be to the point and concise. So, you know, I used Heir to the Empire with Luke talking with Ben Kenobi about him being the last of the Jedi, and he being confirmed that he's first of the new, which is what Yoda foreshadowed, right? And then, of course, the book, The Final Prophecy in the New Jedi Order, where Leia is looking at her brother and realizing how much he had grown and became the master of this order. And, you know, how many people came in with the same mission and the same goals and all that as being a Jedi of the new order. And then, of course, A New Hope, when he says, you know, when the time is right, you know, the Force will will them to them. And I'm paraphrasing. And so it shares, of course, Luke being with Ben in his little hut and listening to the message that Leia is saying to Ben. And that is being Luke's push into becoming a Jedi, basically. So I just wanted to be concise with this. And I think this is my longest continuity chronicle that I did so far. But I think it says a lot, considering that this movie novel also contains a lot of EU references and also foreshadows a lot of EU stuff. And this is an example of that. And even the Kenobi novel, the prologue that I used towards the end of it, really tied in with it. And I think that's what made this such a great hit. And I will still continue to make these continuity chronicles. They're going to be probably, there's no set schedule for them. But when I have a chance to and go back to a book and realize, hey, I can make a continuity chronicle out of this and I can reference. Tenebrous Way is my first continuity chronicle. So if you guys haven't listened to that one, go check it out. And then I did another one with Tatooine Ghost. So that's another one to check out. And this one right here. All right, let me see who's hopping in here. Who we have coming in. I like the idea that in the deleted scene material that Qui-Gon learned the secret of the Jedi preserving their spirits of in the Force as Force ghosts. And it's in the novel. It's in the novel because there's a greater conversation between when Yoda's speaking to the Force, basically fighting with Qui-Gon. And he's like, hey, I have some training for you to do. This is what I've learned and blah, 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 blah. So it's all there. The visions over the Bantha Poodoo Disney version. Yeah, this version is over that Bantha Poodoo. Yeah. I wish I could read past chapter 1 of Kenobi. The Boba Fett Tusken Raiders are stuck in my head. You can. You will. Thank you so much for that, Bunce. Bruh. No. Luke kept the Jedi the same, man. Word of George purists. It would be so effing redundant. Not redundant, but tragic if Luke did not change the errors of the past, because that's exactly what he was supposed to do. And that's foreshadowed in the OT and in the PT, and especially in the novelization that we just listened to, the portion of the novelization. The chapter is called New Jedi Order. Someone tried to tell me, no, George was in charge of that book, and they're talking about Luke carrying on the same exact ideals as the regular or as the PT Jedi. And I'm like, okay, then so was it George's idea to call it New Jedi Order? And why would it be new if it's supposed to be like the old? So that's the thing. Pure unadulterated Kenobi reviews gone. Fuck my life. I'm so sorry. Maybe we'll have to do it again, or you guys will. We will. Soul Assassin says, always figured Kenobi saw Luke's future, hence why he said Luke was the first of the new and would find friends during the dark times. Yes, he basically says that to him. You are going to find allies in the oddest places, basically. Bane says, I've got Tenebrous Way video coming out. Awesome. Gonna have to check that out. And you guys check out my Tenebrous Way Continuity Chronicle. Is friggin' amazing. And, it's worth the listen to, both of them together, but it's you could see the continuity tie-ins and all this other stuff, all the good stuff. Soul Assassin says Force Ghost was a lost ability, and Qui-Gon was the first to rediscover it, but didn't complete his training. Correct, and that's why he can only manifest through voice, I guess you can say, through audio. Study and forbidding knowledge, corrupted Exarchun and Ulic Quelger. Oh my God, the damn cat is trying to take down one of my paintings. No, get down from there. No, stop it. Go. All right. There's this painting that the damn cat has pulled the tacks from and has knocked it down. I don't think it likes that painting up on my wall there. Knock it off. Oh, let's see here. What's going on here? Never be afraid to send horse to the glue factory. I really enjoy seeing Luke piecing together the past of the Jedi and his lineage. There's still a lot that Luke did that are similar, very similar, or the same as his father, when his father was a Jedi. And there's a lot that's different as well. OG, you know better than to argue with those shills. They're retards, of course. Let's see here. You got to tame the Oh, it's not Toby. Toby basically does have the high ground. He's sleeping on the couch right now, on the back of the couch. Let's see here. We're going to close out here pretty quick. I like the old canon how Luke built the green lightsaber and it wasn't a living kyber crystal he healed, and the Sith bled a lightsaber in Disney fake Star Wars non-lore. Nice, so I'll be watching this. All right, so you guys, thank you so much. 75 beautiful souls here. You guys are friggin' amazing. I'm going to go back to my editing, but like I said, I wanted to come to you guys live instead of just making another video and discuss what I have found about more details about George's decision on Luke and Mara marrying and how it was his idea. Who would have known that George really did have say, and it was really his ideas on how Luke evolved even in the EU, because it's a part of the saga. It is his character. The things that we find when we're not looking for them. You know, when you're settled to look for something specific and you can't find it, and then when you're looking at something kind of different, like the romance in Star Wars and what George says about it, you find something. You find exactly new things, or maybe somewhat new things that can be added on to counter EU, anti-EU rhetoric, I guess you could say. So with that being said, thank you guys again. Please, Soul Assassin, share Bane of Shill's link. Maybe everybody here has already subscribed to Bane's channel. If not, please go do that. Some new exciting things in memory of Purist is going on there. And we have seen Bane of Shield rise from the ashes. So go support over there. And may long live the expanded universe, George Lucas era of Star Wars. And, of course, our channels defending it against these shills. So, you know I'm going to have fun with this. You know I'm going to have fun with this and how I want to promote you. All right, with that being said, let's listen to this as we start closing out.
I'm telling you, this finale, it's unbelievable how tepid contemporary art seems compared to the passionate quality of this finale. So you have this like huge, like it's like romantic nature painting, apocalyptic landscape of the lava. Lucas cross-cuts the destruction of the Senate chamber, and you have the destruction of industry going on. And then, after all these horrors, it is so beautiful. I'm saying, oh my God, nothing in the last 30 years in any of the arts has been produced as emotionally compelling and significant as the finale of Revenge of the Sith.